what's going on in 2024? It's like 11 days in. You got opening acts that are uncomfortable during their set. You have one of the major airlines shorting people after a major malfunction mid-flight. And you have students fighting teachers, which results in a student having a seizure while handcuffed. 11 days. 2024 continues to be on some mess. Let's talk about it. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast. I mystified the I Refuse podcast. Not even 48 hours ago, I told you I was going to be minding my African American business. And y'all just keep throwing curveballs at me. So I'm back. Here it is, January the 11th, 2024. The weekend was this close to happening without some mess. So first things first, I was over here minding my African American business like I always do. And Ari Lennox, who is a national treasure down on the Instagram Live, decides on one of her recent appearances on Instagram Live to share her experience opening for Rod Wave. Now, for those of you that live in Amish country, live under a rock, live in a cave, you do not have access to hot running water. You do not have a flat screen TV. You just do not know what's going on. Ari Lennox is an R&B musical vocal talent. Born and raised in Washington, D.C., has made quite an impact on a lot of us R&B aficionados. She signed to Dreamville Records, which is J. Cole's label, one Jermaine Cole, who is one of the hip-hop giants right now, along with Drake and Kendrick Lamar. She's out currently touring in support of her latest album, which has been out, I think, a little over a year now. And she's also put out some new music, which is really, really cute. But aside from that, she's been a constant presence on Instagram Live and has been funny as hell on Instagram Live. I've been on some of those things and I'm just like, this girl is too funny, too cute. So recently, the past couple of days, the IG Live that she had has been circulating where she has detailed her experience opening for Rod Wave. Now, Rod Wave, not really all too familiar with him. I know the kids, and when I say kids, 10, 15 years younger than me, go up for Rod Wave. He's been making music for a while. I couldn't tell you if he's a singer or a rapper. I do know of a TikTok that came out a couple years ago where I guess as he was coming on stage with like 2,000 people, the stage started to rock and, the people started to zigzag and everybody kind of collapsed on the stage. I was like, okay, is he a comedian? I don't know. So she goes on Instagram Live to say, I had a really bad experience opening for a person, as is the case with other performances I have, live performances, I sing, but I also try to affirm or be affirmative or have some kind of connection with the audience. Well, in this particular case, during the process of my trying to affirm with the audience, people were throwing things at me. People got hostile. I was already uncomfortable with, the energy that I was getting. Something I just felt like I couldn't wait to get on stage, get through my set, and get off. And it made me pause, right? My first thought was, what connection musically does Ari Lennox have to Rod Wave? Um, when you think of the sound and you think of the audience, it just gives two different lanes, right? And while, I'm a firm believer of, girl or dude, get your coin. I'm rooting for everybody black over here. It lends me to think, what is your team doing? What kind of market research? Again, going back to a theme that I've had over the past couple of videos, what the people that you hire to work for you, like the executive decisions you make, whether it's the label or your manager or your lawyers giving you some recommendations of people to work for you, agents and tour managers and all that stuff. How much market research went into the acts or the opportunities presented to you to open for such acts? Because like I said, while I say that I'm not familiar with Rod Wave's music, clearly, the antics or the reception she got, which is not too far removed from, the incident that happened a couple of months ago where people were throwing like water bottles at her. And she said, cut the cameras, cut the music. Who fucking threw that? Like the Howard University, DC, Prince George's County came right out of one Mrs. Salter. So you have that, and then you have this incident. It just begs me to question, what is your team doing? Like, you're paying these people good money, and they're giving you this opportunity. And while it's great on the one hand because Rod Wave has such a huge audience, which came out of nowhere for me. Like for me, having been around for a while, I couldn't name a single Rod Wave song. Yet he does stuff to people, and a lot of people connect to what he's going through. And I know it's definitely an age kind of thing. So that lends me to another question as to where can you put like an Ari Lennox, and the kind of artists, artists in general, how much more can they compromise for the sake of a larger audience? Because Rod Wave Rod Wave having a larger audience, that means more of a profile and more of his people knowing more about you and have possible interests and streams and more money and interest in your art. But it's like we keep having these conversations about just having respect for women, respect for musicians. There is a dark side to fame and, the type of crowd that you bring. Like, y'all throwing bottles at this girl. Now, I don't know if it was glass or plastic, but it leads me to believe that people were already like tipsy at that point and just loud and ruckus and ruining the vibe and the environment for other people that pay their good Panasonic money. And I'm sure there were a considerable amount of people in that audience that were just as excited to see Ari Lennox as they were Rod Wave. Like, Ari Lennox has some good songs, but there has to be a discussion as far as like how much vetting and market research are teams, doing before booking them on a particular act, and how much insurance to their security and safety is given to them during, their work as an opening act. And I'm sure Ari Lennox, acknowledging where she was, realizing this wasn't her show, tried to keep it cute and professional, because this is, a professional thing, and I want to keep my name good with other artists versus, oh, if it was my show and you were throwing shit at me, I'm going to show you the real Ari Lennox in a minute. One Mrs. Courtney Salter. So it's a shame that going into 2024, another 12 months, that we're seeing a rise in uncomfortability at disrespecting Black females. Unprovoked. That's another downside of doing what you think is cute, or, because somebody else did it at one of our previous shows, it's okay to do it here. Because you want a moment. You want her to cuss y'all out so you can tape it and spin it on your platforms and so on and so forth for likes and followers and stuff, and just, you didn't have to do much. But it continues to be unsafe out here. You can't even go to the movies. You can't even go to the concert. People were fighting down at Monica's concerts. People were fighting down at Erykah Badu's concerts. It's like, what is it? Is it worth that? Is it worth being on the no admittance across all venues, no admittance on any flights, because you're ignorant and you want to act out? You have no home training. Like, concert tickets are going up already. You think I'm going to pay $400, $500 to be in the standing general admission front orchestra area so you can throw bowls during a ballad? Y'all gotta put the brown liquor down for a minute. The lean, the amp stuff, the meth stuff, the creatine, and just keep your senses clean and your attitudes in check. And stop being such weirdos. No, we send out our thoughts and our apologies out to, I don't know these people that did it, to Ari Lennox. R&B as a whole right now is still on life support a little bit. We can't keep looking to, the same 4 or 5 people that are actual artists, who are in their own kind of record label hell, to give us music every 4 to 6 years. And then kind of overlook other artists, like, what's his name? October London. I know Duran Bernard is doing his thing. But there are hella others. Kiana Lede, who I've referenced on the I Refuse podcast several times. There are other folks. But I will say this: if it was up to me, and I was Ari Lennox's team, I would have put her on tour with Jasmine Sullivan, had to open up for Mary J. Blige, even though in my mind, I feel like Mary J. Blige takes, I wouldn't say issue, but is very guarded about her stage, her position, and very selective as to who she would have open for her if she has an opening act. Because, Mary J. Blige technically doesn't need one. But it would be nice for her to, like, pass it on to other R&B girlies. Um, but I understand she too has to kind of play the game politically to, at any moment to align herself with a younger artist that has sold over 100 million records, like Rihanna. But it would be nice. Um, we got to protect, our R&B girls, Ari Lennox, Summer Walker, Janae Aiko, SZA, Kiana Lede, Sabrina Claudio. Who else? Just to name a few. So moving right on along. So Alaska Airlines had an incident recently, late last week, involving a situation that requires them to make an emergency landing pre-flight. Right now, Alaska Airlines is, after that incident, is only offering the passengers $1,500 in addition to a full refund on their ticket price for their inconvenience. Passengers on the same flight, 1282, that lost a door plug, which then caused a hole to open on the side of the plane while in the middle of a flight. I don't believe anybody was sucked out, but they were at least 30,000 feet in the air. Some items did come out of the plane, one of which was a cell phone that a guy came to TikTok to talk about. He showed said phone in one piece, said that it was outside of where he was. In one piece, not a single scratch or anything. These people had to endure the rest of the flight with this hole on the side of the aircraft that they're on, going possibly 300 miles an hour. It would take the Cochrane firm for me to even respond. You only offer me $1,500 and the refund of my ticket price. From an airline company that makes 100 times that in a day. Like, we're at a point right now in the airline industry where y'all are charging us pretty much from the moment we look for tickets. You're charging us for the bags. You're charging us depending on the weight. Like, if it's over 50 pounds, we got to pay an additional fee because, it counts as an additional bag. It's going under the plane. Charging us for snacks. You're charging us for seats. You're limiting us to X amount of bags in the overhead, which is, I get it. Like, you're allowing people to come on the plane with house pets. It's just so many other things that are putting us at risk in addition to these kind of things. And you're only giving us $1,500 and the full refund of our ticket price, which is probably give or take $400 or $500. After surviving a harrowing ordeal that could cause emotional distress, mental distress, psychological distress, you're going to have to come out your pockets if it was me. We're talking at least six figures. Like when you make so much money in revenue, even in a bad quarter, even on a bad day, that's still more than what you're giving back to us. And some people in the articles I've read have come forward and said, I've consulted with my family, I've had trouble sleeping, and I'm just not sure how to feel about it. I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm on the phone with a lawyer the night, like the moment we land. Because there's no reason at this point in society where you make more than enough money to run the course that safety and regulations from aviation and all these other folks to ensure that shit from the plane, like part of the wall, um, the propeller, the engine, the those two things under the wings, do not break off. Yeah, here we are in 2024 where we should have been flying like the Jetson out this bitch. And we can't even keep planes in one piece. Like it wasn't that long ago that a similar situation happened on a different plane, different flight. And somebody got sucked out and killed. Mm, it's a mess. For not too long ago, we were saying, the bar as far as air travel is in hell, and it's been like that for a while. And I've said on the little bird app, the change came when Southwest or Delta or whoever was offering those cheap flights, those one trip things, and then there was a $99 thing, and I'm just like, this is the sort of thing that turns a different form of travel into the Greyhound experience. And I know they tried to do the megabus thing and the bolt bus thing, but it's like you don't even hear about that as much anymore. And I remember one time I caught like a bolt bus or a megabus or something up to New York City. And on the way down, it kept losing power, and the iPod charger kept slipping out of the outlet. I said, "What the fuck is going on here?" Either the battery is not the bus battery is not the right battery amp wise for this big ass vehicle, or we really are getting every bit of the dollar a mile or the dollar thing that they was doing around that time. But at any rate, it was just like, we're trying to do too much um, at once. And it's a double-edged sword when you lower rates or lower fares, and you have, overbooking and double booking, and you only add to more frustration for the passengers, which is somebody that's loved watching those A&E airport shows where people flip out. It's like it just continues the cycle, right? So it's like, this is really taking the glamour and the magic out of flying. And then on top of that, people want to bring all their kids that they more than likely don't have a hand in raising from day to day. You know, the kind of parents that ignore a tantrum at the detriment of everybody else's safety and peace. And you have like these blowouts or blow ups on planes, and it's just like, golly, golly. So you just have a whole lot going on in one airplane canister, pretty much. And that's aside from people that open air cough, people that open air sneeze. Like none of these germs and stuff is going anywhere but like to the back and to the front. And you think that little bit of cold air that's coming out is doing anything? No. Like, for the longest time, I honestly think because we're not keeping or giving the respectability to such a form of travel that we're not getting it in return, where the businesses are like, look, y'all want to act up, we're just going to give you what you pay for. But at any rate, I'm not, if that had been me, I would have been like, nah, you got to run that through my lawyer. And I know at the end of the day, the airlines, when they run into these kind of issues, are just going to write it off. And, they're insured, of course, and backed by the government. And it'll be on to the next thing. Another downside of capitalism. And I'm with y'all when y'all talk about this kind of stuff, like the greed and the lack of accountability and disappearing when it's time to be supportive. Like you would think when you're in customer service, and I'm not really a firm believer anymore of the customer's always right, because a lot of y'all take that to mean some kind of entitlement to being an asshole to folks, especially at food places. Like that's kind of asinine to me. Like, why would you be rude to somebody that's making your food? But I'm with y'all when it comes to this kind of thing. When you are an airline place, you are responsible for all of these lives. No, we sat in the terminal real good. We did everything you asked us, when filing in single line and all that other stuff. We were on the airplane. We did everything right. And you mean to tell me that you got us on this unsecure soda can with wings? Had us go through that whole ordeal, which I'm pretty sure the whole door plug thing could have been avoided had they, cut up on their inspections, did their walkthroughs more regularly. And I can only imagine it was probably one of those lengthy flights with a hole in the wall of this plane. Yeah, we made it safely, made it in one piece, but we went through all that and you only giving us $1,500? And the return of our airplane ticket, like, okay, absolutely not. It's just one of those things where it's like people, businesses really don't care about people. Yet they want our money. So I don't know. Uh, I just hope it turns out more in their favor because, it's what's $1 million or six figures to each passenger to an airline? Nothing more than a bigger tax write off, right? So before I get up out of here, I want to talk about another thing. We on the Refuse podcast, when we're talking about teacher student stuff, while we are a firm believer of, they can confiscate certain things if you are causing a disruption, like a Nintendo Switch. Um, they can confiscate your phone. They can confiscate any electronic device. Like that's been the standard as far back as I had been in school. And there's nothing you can really do about it if you were raised like I was raised. However, there comes a point where it's like the power of no or the power of restriction, there has to be some nuance or, some thought as to what the message you're actually putting out. So recently, Normandy High School, which I believe is in Ohio, there was a video that came out of a fight between a student and a teacher in the hallway. Now, the context goes, allegedly, that the student wanted to get her purse or, I guess, go to her locker or leave the classroom to get her seizure medication. Now, there was a piece of the story missing because they didn't get a statement or anything from the teacher or the school as to what the teacher said or the teacher's response was. However, did she forbid the girl from leaving to get her seizure medication? Was there some kind of contesting or second guessing the student as to the validity of to the request? And that part is missing. But something had to have happened that led to an all-out fight between the student and the teacher, which upon the conclusion of the fight, the student was put in handcuffs and ultimately had a seizure while handcuffed. So, from a parent, human being standpoint, it's not looking too good for the school or the teacher if that's actually what the reason was. And from a school faculty standpoint, it's not looking good for the student because it didn't have to get physical. And I know that, students have a history of escalating a situation because they didn't get their way, but also, teachers can be ego hungry, power driven. These four walls are my domain. Y'all can't leave even after the bell rings until I say y'all can leave. Like that kind of power trip kind of shit. But I also know that when it comes to health things, that sort of information is part of the student's record or the school is aware. Therefore, the teacher would be made aware. Because you want to avoid at all costs, I would think, a level of liability for yourself as a teacher, thus the school and the district and the administration as a whole. So it's like you don't want to make it a big deal. Because God forbid this girl or this student has a seizure after you said no, and there's a threat to life. Because some seizures some people don't come back from. And this is a special case because we're not talking about confiscating something. And at the end of the day, a request to get seizure medication is not a threat to the teacher and is not a threat or a distraction from the rest of the class. Now, let's let's just say we take the teacher aspect out of it. What her response was, and it's just the student didn't get what they asked for. Like, it kind of takes it just kind of takes the credibility away from a student when their reaction is to get physical with the teacher. Because people looking at that will be like, girl, if you know you're prone to seizures, being in a fight would be the last thing I would do. And that's aside from whether you want people to feel sorry for your condition or not. Like, the response to be physical at all just is not going to get you anywhere in life. It is not going to it's going to undermine, whatever precipitated it, whatever your request was, whether or not it was credible. Like, all of this really could have been avoided had you not got physical. Like, it's all about self control and impulse control. Now it's a bigger distraction away from the class. Now, had that been me, and I know that I've said to have seizures, and we've communicated this to the school, and I need to leave class to go get my medication because it's that time of the day. And the teacher says, no, I'm going to get my seizure medication. Write me up. Like, there's nothing stopping you from writing me up and running it on up the chain because, the story is never going to change because you have an issue with it. And I've seen teachers in any situation with a student, like, try to block their leaving, the class and, other hostile kind of things and get loud and get aggressive and all that other stuff. I'm still leaving because at that point it's like foolish for you to take, as a teacher, to take on that liability. And, looking back, another argument that could be made, I guess, against the student, electing to fight the teacher is that, girl, you literally had a seizure right after. That probably could have been avoided had you not fought the teacher either. So you got like two strikes against the student, and you got, more for the teacher. You know what I mean? Whether you take out the teacher aspect, what was her role, what did she do to get to this point, or you just leave that in there. Like, lady, student, girl, the one that needs to get her seizure medication, that wasn't smart. But, depending on the parents, or, how people are, I'm sure there's going to be some news coverage of it. And, the parent, it's probably going to be a parent that's like, of the attitude, don't say shit to my child, and my child wasn't wrong, and the teacher knew, and, basically going off of whatever the little girl said, because, leaving out details, we here at the I Refuse podcast give free game. Leaving out details is lying too. And I would not get on the news until I got the entire story. And I would have been asking a lot of questions. Like, I would exercise everything out first before I get on the news and just one-sided with my daughter or my child. It's unfortunate all around that it's gotten to this point with schools. That's, I can go into a whole 2-hour video about that. But also, it's unfortunate that it's gotten to this point where we're adding a different situation to the already combustible theme between student and teacher. Like, it's one thing to confiscate electronic devices, but it's one thing to, if it's true that, this teacher is withholding a child's access to their medication, especially to keep them from having seizures, at least through a school day. It'll be interesting to see what else comes out of this, if this girl actually had a history of suffering from seizures, or if this one particular seizure was an outright result from getting physical, taking hits to the body and all that other stuff. I don't know. Context still matters. I'll just say this. Y'all better be more hands-on in raising your kids. And stop leaving Amber Alert to do it. This is Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Get into season 5 wherever you get your Spotify and your Apple Music and your podcasts. Continue to support the I Refuse podcast channel as I continue to expand and just come up on here and just rap with y'all. I don't think y'all understand. This is like good therapy to me. This is good therapy to me. I love doing this stuff for y'all. Thank y'all for the love and the support. Give us the follows and the subscribe, the subscriptions to the Twitter, to the YouTube. We're at I Refuse Podcast. Instagram at I Refuse Podcast _between the words. Everything's still active. We're going to continue to produce some stuff. Hope you've been enjoying the podcast so far, season 5. As long as the mess keeps coming, we'll always have questions, or we'll always come and ask y'all, what the hell's going on? Is it as ghetto over there as it is over here? So keep it locked as we continue to come back with y'all and come talk to y'all. And continue to support Black content creators, original Black content creators. I will never forgive y'all for putting that tall, skinny Black dude that was doing the Alabama TikToks in the shopping center. Took the dancing he was doing on Instagram Live or TikTok Live and superimposing it in Tony Braxton music videos, Outkast music videos of Farnsworth. Like, he was hitting it hard, but my thing is, why you got your little sister jacket on? You tall and skinny and light skinned, and you got these high waters on. The fashion is a choice. But, get your tens, King. Get your tens. The memes and the superimposing him in different music videos and different concerts and stuff is hilarious. Yeah, and superimpose this man into the I Like the Way You Move music video with Outkast and Farnsworth Bentley. Just doing all this. We are such an unserious people. Before I get up out of here, I got some more stuff to talk about. The Taraji and Vivica Fox situation. Y'all are very hilarious with that. With Vivica can do this Taraji movie, but Taraji couldn't do this Vivica movie. And I'm just like, y'all can appreciate more than one actress. You don't have to diminish one, their talent, their range, and their credibility as an actress, or quantify their success off of their, when was their last box office hit, and all this other stuff. And it's like, y'all don't realize these are both black women trying to thrive and maintain a life in a white dominated industry. And I'm going to tell y'all, it's ultimately down to the team and what they're doing for them. And y'all can knock Vivica for doing the Car Shield commercial, but from what I heard, she got paid 6 figures for that. And I'm still 10 toes down with my belief that she didn't say anything wrong or out of turn. Y'all just didn't like the tone, I guess, because technically y'all really don't like Vivica for whatever reason. But the way that she looks and the plastic surgery allegedly, and her being her blunt, honest self, is not mutually exclusive to her talent as an actress. Because quiet as it's kept, Vivica Fox's catalog is just as diverse as Taraji's catalog. But y'all don't want to admit that, because you'd have to admit that you don't have the range when it comes to movies. Like, she's done other movies besides Set It Off and Soul Food and Why Do Fools Fall in Love, which is a really good movie at as far as acting and showing how powerful you can act without words, just with your face. That takes a lot of skill, but y'all don't want to have that conversation. Y'all want to keep recirculating this Car Show commercial that she got allegedly paid 6 figures for. And weaponize that to justify, oh, well, she fell off. No, still working. No, it used to be, when you say somebody's falling off, it used to be, oh, they out here begging for change. No, she's still working and she's doing really well. But I'm like, she may not be in a big blockbuster, big budget film, but that's probably because she's not in a movie with white actors. Like, let's be honest. Taraji acted across from Brad Pitt and was in Curious of Benjamin Button, and they got that big budget because Brad Pitt and Kate Blanchett were in it. Just like Vivica Fox being the sole black lead in Kill Bill Volume 1, another big budget film, surrounded by white actors. Like, it's the history for me. Like, y'all don't even recognize what's going on. It's right in front of your face. And as much as y'all want to claim that we don't need the system and we don't need to be in their world, to some degree we kind of do. Especially if we're measuring the same actresses off of box office hits, which have white leads in them and is predominantly a white cast. Supporting and lead for us. But, it's just, you kind of falling right back into the same nonsense that you swear is the problem. But anyway, Miss Fox I Refuse podcast. Keep it cute or keep it on mute. We'll continue to I Refuse over here. And we'll catch you guys later. Peace. Fendi, like the bag.
this is the I Have a Few